Yes, boys, what is the story? Welcome back to Game Week 13 preview in the FPL Draft Mode. It's myself, Nolezy, one half of the FPL Draft Duo. You can find us on all social media at FPL underscore draft underscore duo. If you want a question answered on the podcast, send it in. Instagram, Twitter, any way you can find us. We're going to try and answer every question that is left in a YouTube comment below. So if you want a last minute waiver suggestion or help with a dilemma, make sure to comment below. We're going through teams' numerous options for different midfielders and defenders. Although we're not going through waivers specifically today, we're going to give loads of waiver suggestions and possible swaps throughout the episode. We're going to do a lot of dilemmas and questions, so hopefully we give you the right answer and you get that win in Game Week 13. Starting off with a couple of players that a lot of people text in about that they have on their teams that they might be worried about. I wouldn't worry about these four players: Johnson, Neto, Martinelli and Havertz. None of them started at the weekend actually. Johnson came on, banged. He will continue to do well even if he doesn't start, which I think he will. I think it was just a slight rest. Neto, no minutes. I still think he was carrying a small knock. I still believe that over the Christmas period he'll rack up a couple of returns, and playing with a really good Chelsea side, really good fixtures. I wouldn't get too upset about that 0 minutes. I had it myself. Thank God I had a sub. I still like him as a nice hold over the Christmas period. Martinelli is the same, 0 minutes, but started during the week in the Champions League and banged. Got whipped early, maybe that means he's in for a start. Havertz the exact same. No minutes at the weekend, started, banged. So they're all really high enough picks. Maybe Neto not so much. Martinelli again. Havertz, Johnson, I wouldn't be worried too much about their minutes. I think over the Christmas period they will do their fair share of point getting for your team. Looking at some players that I have on the watch list, these are players that I'm excited about that could be really good, but I just amn't confident enough to give recommendations yet. Let's have a look at them. He-Chan, back in action for Wolves. Sarabia had a slight injury. He's also coming back. So again, the reason why I wouldn't just say, yeah, He-Chan's going to be great, he's going to start, is because they have so many options. They have started to score goals. He-Chan wasn't amazing at the start of the season. So I think one more week of information before we make a decision. Hop on him, and then possibly maybe if he doesn't start, you've missed out on a waiver. So a lot of these watch list players, I'm looking at one more week of information, and that will tell us so much. Next up is O'Reilly of Brighton, and a lot of messages about him. Really, really good start to his Brighton career. Well, bad initially, injured, but then when he came on, 33 minutes and banged a goal. Again, I just need another week of information. I would, even if he does start and get 90, I don't still see him taking any of those players' places full stop. So it will be hard for him, but maybe if you're in a really large size league and he does get some game time over Christmas, it could be a decent pickup. Callum Wilson is back, got 22 minutes as far as I believe at the weekend. Again, maybe he's in for his first start in game week 14 maybe, and you might be able to pick up a striker. I'd also be very wary of him in terms of injuries. So if you have a playing striker, I wouldn't just go swapping in and hoping for a starting striker. Two City players in Nunez and Stones, because City are at a really, really difficult period. We know that. But in terms of their injuries, in terms of the players they have in them positions, Kovacic is injured now. Rodri's injured. So they have been playing Gundogan as a holding midfielder. And I think that's been one of the reasons why they have been poor, because on that counter attack, he does not have the legs. I still think him and Bernardo Silva are going to be okay options over the Christmas. I think Bernardo Silva especially, we'll talk about him later on, could be a really decent option. But maybe Nunez is going to come in and fill that kind of deeper lying role. Maybe John Stones is going to push up from defence and fit in there as well. So again, one more week. Now, I know it's Liverpool, so it might be slightly different, but another week of information might tell us that we have a City gem on our hands. There's never such thing as a City gem because they will get benched, but maybe an under-the-radar City pick for a couple of game weeks. Devaney of Palace started the last two games and banged last week. Eze looks like he's still going to be out. Kamada is suspended. Forget the other midfielder that's also out. but looks like a good, decent player. Palace don't have the most amazing fixtures. They're not the most amazing team. Just maybe one to keep an eye on, that if he continues to start, he could be another Morgan Rogers, where we see this young player come through and likes to break the line. Just another one to have a look out on. And I want to see him do well. You always like to see a young player come into a team and do well. Zinchenko and Kivior. One of them is going to play for Arsenal this weekend, I presume. Gabriel picked up a knock during the week. That means that Ben White's out, Gabriel's out, Calafiori's back, Saliba is back, so Timber is there. So if Gabriel doesn't play, Zinchenko maybe at left back, or Kivior at centre back, or even left back could be a possibility. If I had to pick, I'd probably go Zinchenko because he can play left back and invert. But at the same time, Kivior is actually a decent centre back. Again, this is why we want one more week of information, because I wouldn't want to go saying Zinchenko when I actually have no idea who he's going to play. And if Gabriel's not going to play. If Gabriel's fit, I wouldn't be looking at these two. But if you're looking for a 1 week punt and maybe somehow Gabriel's injury is worse, you could pick up an Arsenal defender for a couple of weeks. They're just being very, very unlucky with injuries. So all these players, very keen on how many minutes they get and their performance over the weekend. Looking at some of the best fixtures and the best teams to target, this picture was made by FPL Consult and FPL Era. It's a really good understanding of the teams that have decent fixtures around the Christmas period. Now, I suppose one of the most important things is players that play as well, because there's no point having amazing fixtures if they're only going to play half them games. Top of the list is Wolves, and the reason I don't actually have a section on Wolves in today's episode is because we've been on Wolves for a while, and for the most part their players are going to be picked up. Cunha, Larson, Aït-Nouri, Semedo, Dawson, Totti, all of these solid picks are going to be picked up. A couple of people asked me about, let's say, Mario Lemina. Yes, he's having a decent year. 1 goal, 3 assists, 40 points so far, not too bad. He is a yellow card merchant. You can stick him in there, no problem. But I don't know if I've been picking him up over some other players that I have. Guedes, he has been doing well off the bench. But again, the main solid players I'm going for, as usual, are all the boys that are going to be picked up. So today's episode, we're going to mainly focus on Brighton and West Ham, and then talk about the United boys as well. But let's have a look at some of the teams that have them good fixtures. As we said, Wolves are top, Bournemouth at home, Everton away, West Ham away, Ipswich at home, and Leicester away. 5 very, very good fixtures in a row. Brighton are a really good side that we want to focus on. Southampton at home, game week 13, great fixture. Fulham away, Leicester away, Palace at home, West Ham away, and Brentford at home. Decent run of fixtures. They could do well in all those games, but there's a lot of teams in this year's Premier League that aren't pushovers. But there is a lot of good Brighton assets that we can target. Arsenal are up there, as they always will be, because they're a top side, but they have some good fixtures. Bournemouth are in there, not too keen on some of the Bournemouth players. Chelsea, we know they have a good run of fixtures, but after this run, if we could extend this, they have an unbelievable run. And West Ham, after the Arsenal fixture this week, they're going to go right up. They play Leicester away after Arsenal, Wolves at home, Bournemouth away, Brighton at home, and then Southampton away. So again, couple of players in that West Ham side that we are going to look at today. So focusing on Brighton first and foremost, we're going to look at some waiverable assets. Obviously the big ones, I have João Pedro down here, probably going to be taken. Let's look at their fixtures, as I said, just a slightly more detailed version of that. Southampton at home, very, very good fixture that we want to target. Fulham away, decent fixture, but not absolutely amazing. Leicester away, good fixture, could be goals. Palace at home, good fixture. West Ham away, okay fixture. So they have some good fixtures. They are playing well, and that's one of the reasons that I'd like to target them. Looking at the possible options. So I have Van Hecke here and Veltman. Again, 2 very waiverable players. I'll be looking at Van Hecke myself. I've got him in 2 weeks ago. I'll be looking at him in normal fantasy. And Veltman has been a bit of a stalwart. Now, Dunk is fit and should be back. Hasn't played since game week 8. Prior to that, played every minute apart from 15 minutes. So Veltman, stalwart so far this season, played most minutes, but could be under pressure. Van Hecke, for me, is probably the most nailed. Couple of games there where he missed out on. I actually don't know if that was injury, but I believe that he'll be the man to stay. Igor has got in there a couple of times, but if I was picking anyone, I'd probably pick Van Hecke. In midfield, waiverable players, we have Rutter, who has essentially nailed down his position. He looks like the first choice man in that Brighton side, but expect rotation. Expect Riley to come in. Expect Mintig to get a few minutes. Adingra. So I'd be slightly cautious of where I'd rank Rutter over this period because, well, again, if he only plays 4 games out of them 6 good games, how good is he going to be? If he's on the waiver, I still think he's going to be an upgrade on a lot of players for the foreseeable. But if we're thinking Christmas period, just be slightly wary. And then Hinchelwood, who I just think is such a baller in terms of his ability in all respects. Maybe not FPL. Carrying a slight knock, but I think he will start because Baleba is suspended. And I think Hinchelwood, again, is one of those preferred men for Hertzler. He can play so many different positions. He's so good technically that he allows them to play that the way that he wants to play. And I think that Baleba injury is, just another way that for him to get into the team. So if you're playing it safe, you need a bright midfielder, maybe for a game week or two. Hinchelwood is good at attacking as well. He's not going to play that very deep lying Baleba role, but he can get forward. And then obviously up top, João Pedro is the man. If Welbeck, if somehow he was available, he is the man also. Ferguson essentially could be out of the picture because apparently Brighton have allowed him to talk to other clubs. So it makes it slightly easier for João Pedro and Welbeck. And you never know, we might see someone someone like that play up top very briefly, but for the most part, João Pedro and Welbeck are the men. Looking at the Hammers now, and they have some good fixtures after game week 13. So if you're picking them up, maybe it's with the luxury that your team is pretty set for game week 13 when they play Arsenal. I think if you can invest in them, I think they're going to be a good team to go for over the Christmas period. They usually, especially in defence, are pretty solid in terms of nailless, in terms of predicting a lineup. There has been a lot of rotation in the forward area, but I suppose maybe that's to do with suspensions such as Kudos. Let's have a look at some of the options. So Emerson as a left back over Wan-Bissaka, in my opinion. Wan-Bissaka, yes, monster haul, but his underlying statistics aren't half as good as Emerson. Emerson, I think, is 2.3 attack and returns, 2.3 expected goal involvements, whereas Wan-Bissaka only has 0.8. We know Wan-Bissaka's capabilities. Great tackler, going forward, very average at best. Even his expected goals for the last game week where he scored wasn't amazing. Emerson as an attacking left back who actually seen play live, very good baller in the flesh. I think over the next while, I'd like to have him rather than a Wan-Bissaka. I'd be more confident of attacking returns over him over Wan-Bissaka. Kilman as a stalwart. Tobido is flagged, so maybe that might influence it, but Kilman, 90-minute man, actually has the exact same expected goal involvements as Wan-Bissaka, 0.8. So, if you think, oh, Kilman's not going to score, well, statistically, it's the same as Wan-Bissaka. So neither of them are, too outrageous going forward. Two boys in midfield, we talked about him in the last 3 weeks. Kudos back after the Arsenal game. If you get him in for them games, that would be a super pickup. Somerville has started. Souček has started. There's been a lot of variation in that position, but I think once Kudos comes back, he's going to get back in there straight away. But one man who has been ever present is Paqueta. Now, I know Paqueta hasn't been playing his usual kind of football. Only has, I suppose not bad, 3.3 expected goal involvements this season with 2 goals. So he's slightly underperforming. Maybe that's something that we might see in the future. Him actually, if you actually look at the expected goal involvements, they're always very, very close. Even just go on the FPL website on the phone and check them out. If they have 2.3, they probably have 2 assists. If it's 1.5, they probably have 2. It's very, very close. So over the next couple of game weeks, you can expect Paqueta to get an attacking return. And he's relatively nailed. He has started every game this season, as far as I'm aware. Looking at this, I see 245s. I don't know if that has come on a half time, possibly. And then up top, Antonio, again, another stalwart. Possibly might see Bone go up there if Kudos comes back, but he has preferred to have a focal point up there in Antonio. And I think Antonio's underlying stats are pretty decent for what we perceive him to be. So over the next while, if you've Antonio, if you've Paqueta, Kudos, I think you can expect some attacking returns before the Christmas period. Now, on to United. And not so much like teams to target, but just a quick discussion on possible assets. What we saw the last day, Rashford goal after 2 minutes. Ahmed has now banged an assist 2 weeks in a row. He looks like he could be preferred in that wing back position. I have Xerxes down here because Xerxes, there was some comments about Xerxes and maybe he could alter his play. Maybe he's looking to Xerxes to be up top. Maybe it's a Hoyland. I think both of them got 22 minutes. Garnacho started again in that number 10 role. Is he going to be the best? Dallo looks like he could be a good wing back. Luke Shaw came on. So there's a huge amount of waiverable options that could come into that United team. If I had to hang my hat on a couple of them, I think Ahmed, crazy to say, is one of the most safer ones right now because he can play that wing back position. He tried Rashford up top. I don't know if that's going to be sustainable. Maybe he could go to a number 10 role. We saw Mason Mount come on. I would probably look as a little punt to Luke Shaw as that left wing back. I'd look at Ahmed as that right wing back. And then it's going to be possibly between Garnacho and Rashford. We know Bruno's nailed number 10. So it's going to be Garnacho or Rashford, possibly as that other number 10, with Mason Mount sniffing around, Xerxes up top, maybe Hoyland up top, maybe Rashford up top. For me, there's too many options. I like that Rashford scored. I'm not going to say that he's going to be the next great thing under Amarin, but if I had to pick two out of these crew, it would be Luke Shaw as an kind of under the radar pick and Ahmed as one of the players that looks like he could fit into the system. Apart from that, I would be slightly hesitant in trading for these. Yeah, they could come off great and Rashford could be amazing, but a couple of game weeks time, we might see him struggle to get into the team. It's going to take another week or two of information to have a solid pick, but definitely ones that I'm keeping an eye out for. Looking at a couple of Morgan Gibbs White replacements, didn't start the last day. A lot of people are getting fed up with him. Forest do not have the most amazing fixtures, and you're probably looking to transition to another solid enough player or a player that you think is going to do well over the Christmas period. I have 5 players on the screen here. Joelinton, Awobi, Bernardo Silva, Damsgaard, and Bonanante. You never know, that could be an actual ranking, a subconscious ranking. But let's have a look and a quick look through them. First and foremost, Joelinton, a very solid pick. Probably going to start most games, but his ceiling's relatively mid. 2 goals this season. Newcastle have some okay fixtures: Palace, Liverpool, Brentford, Leicester, and Ipswich. So if he got to Leicester and Ipswich, you'd be excited. But does he start those games? Now they are a week apart, so possibly starts both of them. So a very solid, decent pick. If we're looking at Iwobi, who's doing amazing recently, thank God I picked him up. 3 goals, 2 assists. He has 4.1 expected returns this year, and his fixtures are Spurs away, Brighton at home, Arsenal at home, Liverpool away, and Southampton at home. Some tough fixtures, but if you were to invest in him, keep him. After that, they have Chelsea, Bournemouth, Ipswich, West Ham, Leicester. That would be taking you nearly into February. So maybe you're looking for a longer term that you want to ride the wave. Iwobi could be that player. Definitely something that I'm going to look at myself. Now, we have a question about Bernardo Silva later on, and I suppose I'll talk slightly about it now, but reference it later on. Only has failed to play 90 minutes in 2 games for City. Goes under the radar an awful lot. Three returns this year. Okay, not amazing. Not great at all, especially for a player in the City team. But We know City are underperforming. I think Bernardo Silva will be a very important player over the next while to get City back on track, and I still think that he's going to be a decent hold in your side. So if he's on the waiver and you're kind of looking a bit more upside, that team that aren't in form, Bernardo Silva could be maybe a better pick than Joe Linton. Damsgaard, as someone who's having a really good season, and they have some more punchy fixtures coming up and then into some hard ones. So if you're looking for kind of a shorter term pick in Damsgaard, they play Leicester at home this week and then they go into a tough run of fixtures. So maybe Damsgaard, that Leicester at home, and then Villa away, Newcastle, Chelsea, Forest, Brighton, Arsenal. Not amazing, so more of a 1 week punt. And then finally, Buenanote is back in action for Leicester. We know Leicester can score. Buenanote has 3 goals, 2 assists, and he has missed 4 games, or hasn't started 4 games essentially. His expected goal involvements 3.7, so definitely racking up them underlying stats as well. And their fixtures are okay. So Brentford away, West Ham at home, Brighton at home, Newcastle away, Wolves at home. So middle of the road. How many points do you expect Brentford to pick up there? Or sorry, excuse me, Leicester to pick up there? They score goals, so you're looking for Buenanote to hopefully get some assists, get some returns, rather than Leicester win convincingly. I suppose if we had to categorize them again, Joelinton, solid, safe pick. It will be tough fixtures, but if you're holding him long term, has some good fixtures and is in form. Bernardo Silva, a solid player for hopefully a good team that he's going to get back on track. Underperforming, but always has the potential to get an assist or return on any fixture. So it could be a set and forget. Damsgaard as our short-term pick, and then Buenanote as some decent fixtures, decent underlying stats, but playing for a slightly poorer side. On to some quick fire dilemmas before we finish off on our listener questions. Thank you for sending them in as always. You know where to get us: social media on any platform, preferably Instagram. We answer a lot of questions on Instagram through the story, or at least we receive a lot through the story. So that's the way to get in contact. Let's get into some of these dilemmas. Eze or Foden? For me, Foden. I think Foden actually again is going under the radar. Only 1 assist this year, but that game last week, on a different day, he could have a haul. Yeah, if Haaland's not scoring, he's not assisting. Is a injury prone. Enough said. I think Foden, if you got a trade for Foden over the line for Eze, I would be delighted with that. Odegaard versus Luis Diaz. And Luis Diaz owners were on top of the world at the start of the year, and now they are down in the dumps. You're going to fluctuate in emotions as a Luis Diaz owner. It's Europe that's killing Liverpool in terms of predictability in their starting lineup. I'm going for Odegaard. I'm playing it safe. His underlying stats for the weekend was very, very good. Arsenal looked much improved under him, with him in the team, and then Luis Diaz. If you're a rotation risk, I just can't have you in my team. This is why I don't like the Jotas, the Luis Diaz's that I pick up on draft night, because they're fantastic for 5-6 weeks, and then for 5-6 weeks you don't want to look at them. Yeah, he's going to come back in value, so if you can't get a trade over the line, don't think it's the worst thing in the world. You will get your points again, but it might be a couple of weeks. So I'd go for Odegaard as a solid safe pick. 2-for-1 trade here, and again, I presume you're getting a nothing defender, but Saliba and Igor Thiago for Havertz. So essentially, you're getting a defender and attacker for Havertz. I think I would take that. I do think I would take that. Saliba is nailed. We know that for the next couple of weeks. Again, I always see clean sheets like goals. If Saliba is going to get 4 clean sheets over the next 7 games, well, Havertz has to get 4 goals. And then Igor Thiago, on top of that, could be a starting striker. Hopefully will be a starting striker that might add some more goals to it. My only fear would be that somehow Thiago doesn't get in consistently, and now you could be left with a non-playing striker. If you're confident that Thiago will get in there, I'd be happy to go for 2-for-1. Iwobi versus McNeil. I think this one's very easy. McNeil for me could even be a drop. Everton's fixtures are really, really poor, not playing exceptional. I'm going for Alex Iwobi in this one. Has treated me very well over the last couple of weeks, so I'm going to stick with my boy. then finally pick one of these defenders: Calafiori, Munoz, Bradley, or Mikalenko. First and foremost, I would actually drop Bradley and Mikalenko regardless, because even if Bradley does play game week 13, it's against City. So probably not likely to keep a clean sheet. Mikalenko, as I said, Everton's fixtures are really tough. And then Munoz, Palace just aren't up to it. He doesn't look crazy good going forward. And their fixtures are average. Calafiori looks like he's going to be nailed with all them injuries in the Arsenal squad. So, yeah, easy pick for me, Calafiori. And finally, on to our listener questions. Let's whack them out here. First one, bit strange. Welbeck, keep, waiver, or trade. I presume this person might be slightly conscious of João Pedro coming back, but I would definitely be keeping Welbeck. João Pedro in that number 10 role looks really, really good. So I wouldn't even be too worried about both of them playing together. Easy keep for me, Welbeck. Even though I slated him like 4 or 5 weeks ago, he just continued to prove me wrong. Is Savio droppable? A droppable asset in a 10-team league? Definitely. Now, I'm not saying definitely drop him, but he's definitely a droppable asset. KDB coming back, as I said, I expect Bernardo Silva to play. I expect Foden to play. Maybe Nunez comes in there. Maybe Gundogan plays that role. So between him, Grealish, KDB, there's only a couple of places up for grabs. He was good the last day. Actually, was one of City's better players. So he could go off. But I'm just not too keen on players that might play and mightn't play. Just for me, yeah, he is droppable, even for a solid pick like we mentioned. Bottle Job is happening in League One. That's the T12. Sorry, the sign up for the T12 will be up soon. We're giving everyone that's already in it a chance to sign up, and then we'll open it to new players. But Obiad is in the T12 League One, top division of the 12 leagues. Lost 3 in a row as first. Give me a gem, please. And I think I put this in specifically because I bet him this week. I'm having a horrid time in the T12. It's just not going well in that particular league, and I bet him. I was delighted. So I put him under pressure. Apologies. Find me a gem. Maybe a gem might be a Buenanote. If you're in a 12-team league, Buenanote could be a good pickup. I don't know why I'm telling you this. I'm in the exact same league. But anyways, if you're looking for a short-term pick, as I said, Damsgaard. If you're looking for a longer-term pick, Kudos if he's on the waiver. And pick up some of them West Ham boys. Invest in some Brighton boys. And keep it solid. I think when you're in the lead and things start going wrong, we start looking for loads of different players. As long as your players are solid playing players that have okay expected goals, you'll be fine. And you can't do much more. And that's the thing. You can only do so much in the draft. Been seeing a lot of hype around Matt O'Reilly. Is he actually worth it? As I mentioned, give him another week and then we'll see. Do I get Gakpo or Darwin out for Armstrong or keep them? I would keep them actually. Armstrong, Monster Hall, but it's not going to happen that often. I think Gakpo and Darwin both starting. Don't think they'll continue to start, but excuse me. Don't think they'll continue to start. But even if they only start 50% of games, they're going to be great assets for team that are top of the league. Should I trade Digne after not starting game week 12? Yes, always trade Digne. Absolute trap. Don't care if he bangs a hat trick next week. Never have Digne in your team. Losing patience with Bernardo Silva, only 3 returns this year. Time to move him on. It depends for who. As I mentioned earlier, I think he's going to be a solid little pick. Don't turn your nose up at a player that's returning every 3 or 4 games. I know that sounds bad, but if it was every 3 games, I'd be happy. And so hopefully he can actually up his numbers and get to that point. And then finally, starting dilemma: start Bone, Tavernier, or Smodics. Bone playing Arsenal at home, Tavernier, Wolves away, and Smodics, Forest away. Now, for starting dilemmas, I always just play the best player, especially for the best team, because if Bone does score and you've Smodic starting just because it's a better fixture, you always look back and say, how did I do that? Like, why would I start Smodics over Bone? We know Bone's a better footballer. West Ham are probably a better side. So always start with the best player for the best team. Sometimes fixtures for one game week can skew our view of it. Hopefully we are correct in all these, or we have giving you some information going forward that might help you. If there's any questions that you have, send them in, as I said, to any social media, and we'll try our best to get back to all of them. But other than that, best luck for Game Week 13. FPL Draft Duo out. Boom.